Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Hey, docs, welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, and today I am bringing Christopher Gandy, who is a financial wealth and financial expert, and he has been working with a couple of our mastermind members. And this is how we had met. And we're going to dive into today in multiple things, but a couple of the things I wanted to earmark were tax savings and asset protection. So important as you start to grow your practice and your wealth. And as frankly, your practice starts to spin off extra money. And that is a goal of a business, is to spin off extra money that you, the owner, that put your blood, sweat, and tears into, can then reinvest into your retirement and all things wealth growth. And that's what Chris Gandy is going to talk about today. Does a great job of that. And the couple of mastermind members that he's worked with, and probably a few more now, but since I got introduced to them, have raved with the work they've done for their practices and frankly for their families. And before we dive into this interview with Chris, I do want to make mention that as this releases, we've got a couple days left on our early bird pricing. November 15th, 2025, the early bird ends. November 30th, registration ends on our Cash Confident Chiropractor online course, which is going to be a 6-week online course. First lesson is going to release on December 1st, and each week will drip out for 6 weeks, and we're going to really dive into making you a cash confident chiropractor. And episodes like this help kind of prime the pump for you to understand that, like, to have confidence around your money, you need to feel good about your wealth management and certain ideas that you can have to keep more of your money and protect your assets. So we want to make sure you are doing that. And this Cash Confident Chiropractic course is going to cover everything from revenue to profit margins. We have Dr. Holly Tucker, who's doing a lesson. We have Christine Odell, who's doing a lesson on cash flow. I mean, you're going to leave this 6 weeks truly understanding most of what you need to with finance. Obviously, you can't do everything in 6 weeks, but you're going to really have a good understanding and at least a roadmap to start implementing finances in your practice, and it seeps into your personal life, right? bit.ly/MCM cash. And you can get that early bird if you get it in the next couple of days. That's bit.ly/MCM cash. And you will start to understand your practice finances. But why don't we get a beat on that now with my interview with Christopher Gandy. All right. Excited to have Christopher Gandy on the line here to talk about tax reduction and asset protection. Was recommended by a few of our mastermind members and has done some great work with them. And so we're going to dive into that stuff. But before we do, Chris, tell us a little about yourself personally and professionally, and we'll dive into it.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. So I'm a recovering athlete. My previous life, I played professional sports and played sports in college. So if you Google me, Christopher or Chris Gandy, I'll pop up and you'll see that in my everyday life, I'm a professional financial advisor, financial coach. But in my practical life, I help people do 3 things: help them protect their assets, help them grow their wealth, and help them mitigate taxes over the course of their life. So that is what I coach my clients and coach our clients to do.
Love it. And where are you based out of?
So I'm based out of Chicago. We have an satellite office in Fort Lauderdale, one in California in Newport Beach. And we're continuously working to grow that platform. A couple of advisors in Atlanta, but we're trying to get our best and try to make sure that our platform is a national platform. But we go wherever planes go, Kevin.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I know you've got a few of our mastermind members that are in different areas, Texas, Florida. Just out of the gates, what are some of the things you've been doing, without naming them, but just some of the things you've been doing for their practice or their, I guess, call it personal financial situation?
Well, Kevin, what we figured out over the years, I've been doing this now for 26 years. And my previous life, if I rewind the tape, I worked for a lot of the big companies where they limited the access of products and resources to our clients. And so since we came out and we built a boutique
Mhm.
uh, uh, firm that allows us to work with all the companies. One of the most important things that we've established is understanding first things first, which is lots of times with practitioners, it's organizing
Mhm.
the things that they've done up until now and try and figure out what are long-term assets, what are short-term assets, what are mid-term assets. Trying to make sure they understand the accumulation phase of building wealth,
Mhm.
not only themselves, but in their practice.
Yeah.
You know, I know that's always a challenge is how do how does a practitioner optimize and get the most out of their practice with paying the least amount of taxes? I mean, that's always the name of the game, right? And
Yeah.
so how do they do that? What are the techniques to doing that? But there's some unique ways of doing that, both after tax and pre-tax. So we enjoy sharing with them and guiding them to help them accomplish those things.
Yeah, so let's go down the path of the tax reduction for a little bit. What are a few things that a practice owner could do to, obviously ethically and legally mitigate some taxes?
Well, the key is, let me even before we get there is
Yep.
the structure.
Mhm.
Here's an example. A lot of practitioners will have their say chiropractic practice where they see patients,
Mhm.
but perhaps they're not making the most capital there. A lot of times their other capital will be coming from other things they're doing around chiropractic services,
Mhm.
whether it's rehabilitative services or it's regenerative medicine services or it's blah, 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 blah. What
Yep.
most mistakes that I see is that they've just picked up resources and piled them all into one company. And then there's no way to separate the owners and all the employees.
Okay.
What we've actually seen is that when that happens, a lot of times it makes sense to talk about, or is there a management company that charges fees for source for resources, or is all the
Mhm.
money coming into one? So sometimes it makes sense for us to actually help them look at structuring. And that is the most important thing to make sure the other pieces work. So give you an example. Uh, one of the chiropractors we work with, all the money's coming into one company. And then what they're doing is they're taking some of the capital. And this is nobody on your mastermind, but
Mhm.
they're taking some of the capital and they're actually paying rents to their rental company in which they're building, in which they own the building. Okay.
Mhm.
That's 101.
Yep.
But then you have the other resources, like example is we'll move, if it makes sense, we'll move billing outside of the main practice and have it be a third party resource company also. Because at that point, then you can have different ownership
Mhm.
structure versus the original structure. So you can move billing. That's another resource. And then for all the modalities that come out of that, you can have those be separate companies also.
Mhm.
If you do that, what you find is that if you just create another company for the purpose of creating a company to reduce the taxes, the IRS can come back and say, well, that's not really a company.
Mhm.
However, if you have these other companies functionally operate differently. And the actual key to this is the ownership structure is different. So I love all your people who are in this mastermind, but I want to be
Mhm.
clear. You got to take your name off of all the stuff. I understand the A personality. If you want to get it. But if you own 100% of this company, you own 100% of the marketing company, you own 100% of the billing company, you own 100% of all the other companies, and then you try to create some tax reduction programs, whatever you do for yourself rolls up through all those companies
Yeah.
because it's considered a controlled interest group.
Mhm.
So many a times we'll have a spouse own one of the management companies. We'll
Mhm.
have a spouse or someone own one of the regenerative companies or one of the other companies. It the majority share, 51%. And
Yep.
the purpose of doing that is because the IRS treats that as a completely separate company, even though it's making money from the main company.
Mhm.
You can do that. And now all of a sudden, whatever I do in that company that does not have the majority ownership for you, I do not have to do for all my employees.
Gotcha. So theoretically, you got a billing company that's its own LLC, spouse owns 51%. That is now a different entity, different structure than, say, the chiropractic practice. You could offer something through that billing company, 401k or insurance or anything like that, that you wouldn't necessarily have to offer in the main chiropractic practice. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
And then you could
Correct.
probably, that's just one example of other things that could probably benefit, correct?
Correct. The big one is the building their own pension plan or defined benefit plan. So,
Yeah.
so let's get into the from 50,000 feet. If I have a
Yep.
company at the end of the day and the chiropractor is making about 700 to $1 million, call it is what it is when net profits after all the expenses are paid, they feel pretty good. They're comfortable paying 30%, 32, 37% in taxes, 320
Mhm.
grand is gone. They hate doing it, but it is what it is. In doing this, what happens is that we now have the ability over here to set up a way which we can defer depending on their age and because actuarial age. We can do a 401k, which is limited up to 50 or 60,000 a year. But then on top of that, we can add a defined benefit plan. A defined benefit plan is a form of a pension plan
Okay.
that layers on top of a qualified plan or replaces one, where you can put up to $280,000 on a pre-tax basis. And if designed right, you can actually overfund the defined benefit plan multiple times over. So essentially, we have the ability to make the majority of income disappear because it's redirected into a qualified plan. Now, we can't do it all through a 401k, but you can do
Mhm.
it through those other plans. And some of those other plans are a little more flexible. So a lot more, different investments and things you can have inside of those. But effectively, you can take your effective tax rate on the left side at like 30, 35, 32%, and you can potentially bring your effective tax rate down to 12 to 15% if you do it right.
Yep.
Now, the key to that is cash flow because you got to put the money
Yes.
in,
Yeah.
which is sometimes of a challenge.
Mhm.
But that defined benefit plan is the only plan in which you have until with full extension,
Mhm.
you have until the following year to make contributions to it. So Kevin, let me rewind the tape.
Yep.
Your 401k, you got to make contributions into it during the calendar year.
Mhm.
Okay. During from January 1st of say 2025 to December 31st of 2025. Okay. If you don't have the money in by then, the company then can do profit sharing to a certain point, and then that's it.
Yep.
The only plan where you can put significant chunks in. So let's say you found yourself and you did $1 million, but now all of a sudden, when the accountant comes back, was like, actually, you did 2 million. Sorry,
Mhm.
oops. And now all of a sudden, you're looking at like a $600,000 tax bill. That
Mhm.
defined benefit plan allows for you to put in so much of that excess that you can bring your tax number back down, and you have until September with extension, September of the following year
Gotcha.
to make the contribution. So for many of your people listening to this call, it's a way for them knowing what they paid in 2025 and 2024, what they paid in 2024 to say, I don't want to, I did pay 150, 200,000. How do I get that number down to like 50?
Yeah.
What do I need to do? So then next year, I'm taking full advantage of that. So that becomes part of the conversation, and everything's an exploratory conversation with us.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, you explore it, you see if it makes sense. If it makes sense, we involve your accountant, a couple other people on your team. And if it makes sense, we implement the plan and strategy. And Kevin, here's what I will say to you. What's the downside
Mhm.
to exploring it? Because at the end of the day, we can either A, make the money and give it to the IRS.
Mhm.
B, we can give it to the people we love and care about, including ourselves.
Yep. Mhm.
C, we could give it to charity,
Mhm.
right? Or we can destroy it, take it outside, burn it on fire, but then we still have the
Mhm.
tax on it, right? It was still, so the last lies is not logical. So given the three choices, the IRS, people we love and care about, or a charity, most of your listeners on this call would say, who would you like to leave the least? Who would you like to
Mhm.
give least amount of your hard-earned assets during a 12-month time to? Typically, they'll say, well, the IRS.
Yeah.
Right. And so what do I need to do so that I can explore that or look at that, those type of things. When it's that simple, it's does it make sense or doesn't it make sense?
Yeah. Let's take a break from today's episode and announce our first sponsor. This is going to be Propel Marketing and Design. I've known Darcy Sullivan for years. We've worked hand in hand on my websites. I don't trust anybody else to do the search engine optimization. She does a great job. There's so much to it. A lot of the lingo and the words are beyond my comprehension, but it's just amazing work that she does. And if you're really going to get results with Google, you have to make sure your website is SEO optimized. And I really don't want you doing it yourself as a chiropractor. So you just have to have this type of stuff done. And if you're looking to get more organic online traffic that pulls in new patients, Propel Marketing and Design is currently offering chiropractors who listen to this podcast a free SEO website review. The free review will help you uncover methods that will improve your website and boost your search engine visibility. Head over to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor and schedule your free SEO website review. You won't regret it. She gets great results. Your website needs this. Your search results need this. Head on over there to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor to get your free SEO website review. I want to tease it out a little bit to make sure that we're audience is getting it too. So you mentioned cash flow earlier. So obviously there's got to be healthy cash flow. And then I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, you also have to be paying yourself a certain amount to live your personal life, like whether it's kids' school or grocery bill and all that. So there, you got to fund that. Obviously, there's certain things you can legally run through a business, but let's say you got to have the cash flow. You got to be a person, paying yourself to live, and maybe you're living somewhat moderately. Now, would this need to be kind of a higher revenue, higher margin practice for this to really make sense, to where there's just a lot of profit that's sitting there?
Well, you need to be profitable.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, right? If you're like, I don't know how I pay my bills, right? That becomes more difficult to do
Yeah.
because you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, right?
Hmm.
So I would tell you that most of your well, let me go back for a moment.
Yeah.
Most of your practices should be make sure they're set up as a form of a corporation,
Hmm. Yeah.
not just set up as sole proprietors and 1099 everybody. I mean, come on, we can professionalize the service. Okay.
Yep.
So once they get to that point, then I would say that they need to be, decently profitable.
Mm.
Uh, they don't need to be making $1 million excess a month, but they
Yeah.
need to be decently profitable where they're like, okay, if I don't bring in the same amount next month, I still can live my same quality of life and pay my overhead and my staff,
Yeah.
right? And at the end, when they add all the stuff up, there's a profit, right? I would say it makes sense if your profit is over after you've paid yourself,
Hmm.
yeah, $100,000 or more. It
Yeah.
makes sense to explore other options,
Perfect.
and
Yeah,
I
and
just
that's what.
give it that space so it makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does, and it's knowing some of the mastermind members that have utilized this and have worked with you, and then some other chiropractors I know. There are there's some out there that they are very profitable. They are
Yeah.
running high revenue, high profit practices, which are awesome. But then, yeah, if you're not careful, a lot of that's going to go out the window, and we don't want that. And so, are you seeing a lot of? Are you working with a lot of practices that are, say, integrated clinics, medically integrated, a lot of different types of services outside of just chiropractic?
Well, yeah. Yeah, you figure that now chiropractic care is really whole body care,
Yeah.
right? And holistic care, right?
Mhm.
Everything from peptides to your nutrition to, there's a whole platform
Yeah.
and process for people to be the best version of themselves.
Mhm.
So a lot of the practices that I've seen are super successful integrates a lot of other I call them modalities for their clients to use, even all the way down to cold plunge and red light therapy, right? And it's all succinctly wrapped into one,
Mhm.
organization even though it still may be separate. Um, they're creating the experience for those clients. Where
Mhm.
we come into play, I think that makes sense, and I want your listeners to hear this, is 90% of the people we work with, even in your mastermind, they have other advisors. And
Yeah.
so people are like, "Well, I have an advisor." It's like, okay, I understand, but I played
Mhm.
sports, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna reverse engineer this. Can you imagine me going to play against the Bulls and saying, "I got one player, all has Michael Jordan." You can line up all your other 5 players, but at the end of the day, I have Michael Jordan. At the end of the day, Michael Jordan's going to lose every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And the reason why he's going to lose, even though he's the most talented, is simply because he can't do all the things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? And so, Walt Disney said, and Apple said, you got to think like a big business before you become one. Right? That was a Steve Jobs
Mhm.
quote there. And so lots of your mastermind members are saying, I'm not there yet. I'll wait till I get there. But it's like waiting to go on vacation to pack. Yeah, you got to pack before you go. So some people are a little ways away before they can, and some people, they need a little bit of runway to get that
Yeah.
airplane off the ground, because that restructuring part, if
Mhm.
it's not structured correctly or even streamlined correctly, then we may have to create those other entities and enterprises, get them up and running with the idea that 2026, we're going to do a plan and a strategy versus in 2025 when we're just picking up the pieces of what was already there. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess you'd have until September of 2026 to get 2025 squared away.
Right. And so imagine the look back, right? Imagine, and if I knew this, because a lot of people get to the end, they're like, if I would have knew this,
Mhm.
I would have did this differently.
Yeah.
Well, here's the opportunity. You can't do it unless you have the plan open and you build the plan. Now, the plans can be built even all the way until September 1st of 2026. So for 2025, I'm telling all your listeners, it's
Yeah.
not too late to explore. Does it make sense to help reduce my overall taxation in which I'm giving to the IRS each year? Doesn't
Mhm.
that hurt? I mean, if we take the math on, say, your average practice that you coach or that you work with or that are in your mastermind or that listen to this podcast, let's say for as an average, they pay somewhere between $70 and $100,000 a year of taxes.
Mhm.
And let's say their longevity of being in practice is 20 years. You figure over a 20-year period of time, they're going to give away over $2 million
Mhm.
of capital to an enterprise or an entity or an organization or a government process that the rate of return is zero
Hmm.
for all purposes, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we have the schools, the roads, but at the end of the day, we understand that we want to pay our fair share, but not more.
Mhm.
Imagine if they could say, okay, if I can keep 1 million of the 2 million
Yeah.
and put it in something and it grow at 8% a year
Mhm.
for the next 20 years, right? That 2 million that I would have spent and gave to the IRS, that my million now has turned into 3 million
Mhm. Mhm.
because of the way I had put it away. And
Yeah.
so that's the concept, is why not take a portion of what we know you're going to give away anyways
Mhm.
and redirect it into something that's going to benefit you, your family, and the future generation of your legacy. And that's the idea. That's the concept. That's where our company comes from.
Yeah.
Legacy Wealth Group is leave the world a little better than we found it through intentional work and purpose. That's where it comes from.
Love it. And then, do you also work with the client? Let's say again, high revenue, high profit. They're doing well, but they also have some other desires for capital expenditure within the business to grow the business. Maybe it is buying office real estate. Maybe it's capital for equipment, things like that. Do you work with them to say, okay, let's put this amount into the defined benefit plan. Let's put this amount reinvested in the business. Help them out with that type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we're a coach,
Hmm.
right? What does a coach
Yep.
do? Help draw his plays, right? What do you do? Execute the plays. So a lot of times and again, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, myself included, how often do we get a chance to talk to someone and tell people what we want?
Yeah.
Right? Very rare, right? And the reason why is because everybody's coming to us telling us what they want.
Yeah.
Our employees, right? Or, this vendor, whatever. Here's what they want, right? And we're having to actually constantly react. There's very few times people get a chance to say, "Here's what I want. Help me envision how to do it and the
Yep.
strategy." And so that's who we are, how we help people.
Let's take a short break for one of our great sponsors, TrackStat. It is a new type of software plugin for your EHR that combines patient communication, marketing, automation, and statistics with patient and employee tracking. Built by chiropractors for chiropractors, it shows your team what to focus on each day. See patient visit habits, missing information, unpaid bills, insurance collection visit average, and more. Great visibility of data so you can focus on filling your office with your best patients. When you can see what your staff and patients are doing or not doing and take action accordingly, your profits naturally grow. Take TrackStat for a test drive in your office with our free trial. Not a techie, no problem, we can help. To get started on your free trial, visit trackstat.org and watch the demo. That is trackstat.org. Now, if you could for us, I just want to define a little bit what the defined benefit plan is. Give our audience a little bit of an overview there.
A defined benefit plan is a fancy way of saying a pension plan,
Mhm.
right? So if we think about the most successful people in the world as it deals with never running out of money,
Yep.
they are people that have guaranteed income for the rest of their life,
Hmm.
right? Most entrepreneurs don't have that. So firefighters, police officers, civil servants, then you have the military,
Yep.
you have that university professors, things like
Mhm.
that. They have pensions. Why were pensions so great? If we rewind the tape back to the 1970s, where our grandparents were so amazingly successful financially. They used to buy grandparents used to buy Cadillacs. All, how did you get a new Cadillac? Well, at the end of the
Mhm.
day, they never ran out of money because guess what? The checks kept coming
Mhm.
regardless of how much they saved. So there was three legs of the stool in retirement back in the 1970s. The first leg was how much money they saved and put away and pillaged and saved on their own.
Mhm.
The second were retirement plans that they put their money into, like a 401k or plans like that. And the third one was a pension plan
Mhm.
that their company, and because most of your people own companies, right?
Yeah.
Their company put money into for the benefit of them,
Mhm.
allowed for them to say when they retire, here, this amount of money I'm going to get every month
Mhm.
for the rest of my life. And then when I die, 50% of that is going to my spouse for the rest of their life. Right. And so
Yep.
those three things combined
Mhm.
allowed for people to never run out of money. And
Gotcha.
then you dump in Social Security. And Social Security was a gap filler,
Yeah.
not a actual hardcore leg. Using a gap filler that filled the
Mhm.
gap between what we saved and what we didn't. So if we go back and just rewind the fundamental part of it, most people have relied on saving a little bit of money.
Mhm.
We hope Social Security is going to be there, and all the pensions have basically essentially dried up because at the very large companies,
Yeah.
the Crafts, the Apples, those type of companies, there's too many people to be able to do that with. And so the pension strategy is still there,
Mhm.
especially for smaller, more entrepreneurial businesses. And the tax reduction part of it is so large
Mhm.
that people can really get, I say, wild and crazy with it. And I'll give you a great example of this. I have a practice that sold for $17 million in Los Angeles about 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Well, if you know anything about California, California likes the state tax, right? They like to
Mhm.
make up what's in state tax. So his effective tax rate was 47% on his 17 million bucks. Okay,
Mhm.
so if you do the math on that, let's just say 50, just to keep our life simple, because we don't want to, break out the calculator shit. But on 17
Mm.
million, we're gonna have an $8.5 million dollar tax bill. That was not copacetic for him.
Mhm.
So knowing that the sale was coming, we took part of the shares and we put it in a separate company.
Mhm.
We then took part of the shares, kept it in the main company where he received that. And then part of the buyout was paid over a course of a 2-year period of time versus one, right? So we were able to separate it into 2 years. So the 17 million became 8. We paid 8 million in December and 8 million in January, right? Still the same
Mhm.
money.
Yeah.
So we were able to separate it over a course of 2 years. What we were able to do with the 8 million is now we had part of the shares go over here. So we set up a defined benefit plan over here. Remember, the 401k was only 50,000, so it was
Yeah.
negligible. But we were able to advance pay the defined benefit plan almost $2 million a piece.
Hmm.
So we essentially took his, call it $8 million, and on paper made it look like four.
Yeah.
Now he's got access to those assets because he was over 60, because all he had to do is
Mhm.
be over 60. So he can take those assets out in the future.
Yeah.
And now he paid taxes on 4 million. We effectively took his $8 million tax rate and say 4 million in
Mhm.
taxes, and we brought it all the way down to about 1,300,000, 1,400,000 when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
$2 million on the total amount when it was all said and done compared to what it would have been. So there's a great example of planning, no understanding, and understanding how to really take advantage of it. And we took full advantage of it. And now those assets are in his portfolio versus in the IRS's portfolio and doing whatever it's doing.
Let's take a short break from today's episode to tell you about the best decision I've made in my clinic in the last 10 years. And that has been adding shockwave therapy to our clinic. The outcomes have been really impressive. Certain conditions we were struggling with in the past, we're now seeing results with the shockwave therapy for that. And second of all, the ROI has been really good. You know, when you make a big investment in something, you want to see a return. And we're seeing that return in clinical outcomes and in our investment. And that's been really nice to see. I chose Keenest Medical for 4 reasons. One is the technology is top notch. You have to have great technology. There's a lot out there that isn't quite up to snuff. The second thing is they have a really good clinical training. They have an exclusive partnership with Academy of Shockwave Excellence so that you can become clinically proficient in shockwave. You do need to get skilled at it. I think that's a big differentiator between practices that are getting great results and seeing the ROI is they have a great clinical aspect to that as well. So you want to get trained appropriately. Third is they have in-house service team for all of your technical support, which is key when you're investing in a machine like this. And then lastly, they have a very in-depth marketing and business support for you so that you can launch this into your practice effectively, that you can get that ROI on it, that you can get the clinical outcomes. And they also have really good financing options if you need that. So go to kinasmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, mention MCM podcast and receive a free shockwave in practice book with a purchase of a unit. So that's kinasmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, and mention MCM podcast. So obviously for our audience, you know, the 401k has got a lot of limitations on how much can be put in there. The defined benefit plan is more of like a pension that ultimately down the road will pay you. Is it age 60 when it would start paying you?
You can set it up. You can set it up for 55, 60, 65, or,
Mm.
and at the end, you can roll it over in a lump sum. You can, just like pension options, you can roll it over in a lump sum. You can take it over 10 years. You can take it over 15. You can take it over 20. You can take it over a lifetime. You can take it over a lifetime with you and your spouse. There's multiple ways to take it.
Mhm.
Um, but the fun thing that your people are liking, and I know specifically the couple that are in your group right now,
Mhm.
is we learned a way through a platform that we work with of how to take a chunk out of it tax free later on in life. So the ability to put in money,
Mhm.
60% of it's still going to be taxed at normal income when you pull it out.
Yeah.
But 30% of the money that comes out will come out in a tax free basis later on.
Nice.
So we figured that out too, and they love that. They're like, "Why can't we put more money in that?" Well, because the IRS specifically says in documentation, you can only have 30% in
Yeah. Yeah.
some of those tools. So, but it's still a win. It's still a beautiful thing.
No, I love it. And so that's kind of the tax reduction side of things. And obviously there's a lot more to it. And that's what you help people with. When you structure folks and kind of get their organizations really on point, is there an asset protection aspect to that as well? And if so, what is that?
Yeah. Well, there is because think of it. I like to talk about things in a way where people can understand it, even if they're not talking to me or someone in my business. Just think about it. If we're going to go build a castle over in England,
Hmm.
and we're going to go back to when there was wars and people were taking castles and they were taking kingdoms. Are we going to build that castle with no gate around it or no moat around it or nothing to protect it so they can come in and take the queen? That's not what we're going to do. We need
Mhm.
to protect our assets. We live in a world, and I want your people to hear me. We live in a world where litigation is silly.
Yeah.
Even if it's not you,
Yeah.
it's silly, right? It's
Mhm.
well, you know what? I understand. Googled you, and you're successful. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw a frivolous lawsuit towards you. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. At the end of the day, it costs to get rid of the litigation,
Yes. Mhm.
right? And lots of times it's not what you're doing in your practice. People are like, I got insurance in my practice. No, it's the things that happen outside of your practice. You got a text message from me saying, look, we got 20% on our money. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh. And now you hit someone. And now, you know what? They're like, it exceeds your umbrella or exceeds your limitations. And now all of a sudden there's a liability on your assets. We want to make sure everybody on here, your assets are contained in structures where they cannot be pierced.
Yeah.
That is critically important. Litigation, liability, same type of thing. Your ability to protect your assets from the things that we don't know out there that exist, whether it's from living too long, dying too soon, someone else trying to make sure they take advantage of you, litigation, like those are things that we need to protect assets from. So I believe that trusts are super important.
Mhm.
Now, with that being said, the right kind, I was going to say it one more time, the right
Mhm.
kind of trust
Yeah.
are the most important.
Mhm.
Uh, the trust is not the tool to say, I'm going to reduce my taxes. A trust is designed to protect assets from outside influence. That's what they're designed to do. Are there some with tax advantages? Yes. But the idea would simply think of it like this. All your people should not own much of anything.
Mhm.
They're either corporations, their trusts, and or their structure should own most
Mhm.
of it. And
Yeah.
so if you're listening to my voice and you say, well, I own my house, I own everything. I'm the king.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, the easiest way for you to lose that is a litigation, liability, and or taxation. And it makes more sense for if you own things for you to have trust to own them versus you. The trust
Mhm.
is more powerful anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can live through one generation, not just one, your lifetime, our lifetime, but also 2, 3 lifetimes. So it's a
Mhm.
very powerful tool if you understand how to use it.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that people don't realize as you start to build out assets. You definitely have to get someone in your corner to protect that, and so protect the money you got coming in from a tax standpoint, protect it from an asset protection standpoint. Make sure your organizations are on point there, and I think that's something that not enough doctors are realizing these days.
Yeah. And even the idea of, it used to be really awesome for us to
Hmm.
own things,
Yeah.
right? But it's fair to say some of the most successful people that I know own very little.
Hmm.
Now they control a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
of they control their trust, they're the beneficiary of the trust, or they control their company, but they've given away the ownership
Hmm.
of a lot of things. Like I just said to you,
Yeah.
if you don't own 51% or 50%, people are like, I split it with my husband 50%. No, no, no.
Hmm.
You cannot own the majority shares.
Hmm.
49 is okay.
Yeah.
Or if you own 1%, it's okay. Right? It's okay at times, right? And I think there's part of that is the psychological part, especially people that build businesses, right? Is that
Wow.
I'm gonna take over the world and I'm gonna kill it, I'm gonna crush it, I'm gonna do amazing things, and I'm gonna leave my indelible mark on society, and it's gonna be the most amazing thing ever. And so there's that A personality. I was a former athlete, not only a
Hmm.
college athlete, but a professional athlete. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I can do anything and everything, right? And so that ego part of it is what's stopping some of even your listeners from actually moving to a place where they're like, I understand. I can have the wealth without having my name on the door, my name on all the stuff, right?
Hmm.
To be successful. The
Yeah.
definition of success is not who has the name on the door. Definition of success is who has the most at the end.
Yeah. And I would say, something I see down here in South Florida a lot is you'll hear of, residential real estate being purchased. Like, high net worth individuals are buying third, fourth, five, six, seven, eighth home, whatever it is down here. but it's not bought under their name. It's typically you'll see it bought as like an LLC or some kind of corporation is buying it. That's essentially what you're saying on a big scale, right?
Yeah, like my home is I bought it in a blind trust
Hmm.
because I didn't want people to know who owned it,
Yep.
right? And so, um, and when I bought it, the lady had decided I had actually made an offer. It's kind of a funny story. The lady had an offer on the house, and the lady was like, "No, I'm not selling it. I don't care how much you offer me." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." So then I made my blind trust actually make an offer at $10,000 less, and she took it.
Yeah.
Not sure why, but
Mhm.
she took it. And so you don't know who actually owns the blind trust until we show up at the closing. And I remember that the look on her face when I showed up at the closing. She's like, "Well,
Mhm.
what are you doing here?" I didn't sell you the house. And I was like, "Actually, no, you didn't. You sold it to my trust." So it was kind of funny. But there are ways for you to actually
Mhm.
be able to have corporations. Not only that, but put corporations like Delaware.
Mhm.
Also Florida's a very, very nice state, but there's certain states, Nevada, there's certain states and corporations are
Yeah.
incorporated at where they're more tax advantaged than if
Mhm.
we don't have that. So
Yeah.
just understanding that. And I'm not an accountant. I'm not
Mhm.
an attorney. I'm an advisor, but I work with accountants. I work with attorneys. I work with those people. And if sometimes people have people like that,
Mhm.
um, then we integrate with them to make
Yep.
sure that we have and again, you don't have to fire your advisor. Sometimes they need to be fired because they don't know what they're doing, but that's a different um, they've gotten lazy to the point. But, sometimes it makes sense for us just to enhance or complement
Mhm.
some of the things that are already there, um, and to make sure that it's done the right way so
Yeah.
that, it's they can build another pile of wealth for themselves.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this has been informative and very helpful. I know it could probably be a 4-hour episode to dive into it, but that's why they can reach out to you and have the conversation. And I think it's definitely worth having the conversation. How can they find your information and reach out? We'll put it in the show notes.
Sure. Well, they can reach out to me on email, or you can call I'd say my scheduling person, and we also have a Calendly
Mhm.
link where I can present that to. So if you like, I can give my phone number and email on here, or you can
Yeah.
place it if you want.
Yeah, do the email and then we'll put all the other threes. We'll get a separate from you on an email to get it from you and we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, great. My email is C Gandy, Gandy, like candy with a G, C
Mhm.
Gandy at Midwest Legacy LLC.com. C
Awesome.
Gandy at Midwest Legacy LLC.com. And if they say that they were heard you, if on the title,
Mhm.
they can say, podcast, interview, defined benefit, something along those lines, or your name. If they say your name,
Mhm.
or your podcast name and the title, it'll allow for us to be able to pick it out and be like, okay, we need to schedule a time with them. And I'll give you the Calendly link. You can go direct,
Perfect.
press the button, boom, you're in our calendar. And again, in the title, if you just press, say the name of the podcast, Defined Benefit Inquiry, I'm more than willing to have conversations along those lines.
Sounds great. Well, this was informative and I didn't disappoint. I had heard about this from a few of our members for a while now and been wanting to get you on. So thanks for your time today.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.